Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Michelle Graff, and I'm the editor in chief at National Jeweler. I'm pleased to welcome you to the latest episode of My Next Question, National Jeweler's webinar series sponsored by RDI Diamonds. Today's session is hosted by our senior editor, Ashley Davis, and features Stephanie Gottlieb, founder and designer of Stephanie Gottlieb. Before I turn it over to Ashley and Stephanie to get started, I just want to let our attendees know that if they have a question, they can type it into the Zoom Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. I'll be back on at the end of the discussion to facilitate the Q&A. Also, today's session is being recorded and will be available on the National Jeweler website this coming Friday, April 2nd. Now I'll turn it over to Ashley and Stephanie to get started. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle, and welcome, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We have a lot of questions for you, so we'll get right into it. I would love to first just talk about the beginning of your career and kind of what was your connection to diamonds and jewelry, and how did you get started in this field?
So I very much fell into this world, and I'm so happy I did. When I graduated college, I really did not know what to do. I had a bunch of internships at magazines and wanted to do something in kind of this communications advertising space, but didn't find a job straight away. So I took an internship through a family friend at a diamond company that she worked at, and she's been my family's jeweler for as long as I can remember. She's a friend and family friend. So she introduced me and said, like, no long-term commitment needed. Try this out, see if you like it. And if you do, you'll stay. And if not, you'll find something else. At least you have something to do. So I took the internship. It was a diamond wholesaler right here across the street, actually, on 47th. And instantly fell in love with what I was doing. I was just so fascinated by diamonds and the whole jewelry manufacturing process. And I just kind of fell head over heels and wanted to learn everything I could. And here I am 7 years later.
Wait, that's only 7 years later since you took that internship?
Okay, fine. 7 years I started my own business. 5 years I was there. So 20 years later. I'm trying to make myself younger.
So tell me a little bit about taking the giant leap of starting your own company. What was that kind of thought process even like for you, especially in an industry where it's so old school and traditional? How did you decide to kind of take that step to go out on your own?
Well, that was exactly why I did it, because I was working for somebody else. It was a family-run business, and I saw very clearly the other types of businesses we were working with. You were either the owner or family of the owner, or you worked for them forever. And I didn't see any next step staying there. And I felt like across the industry, it was very much the same. So I left because I wanted to do something that felt new, that felt more modern, that felt more in line with what my friends wanted to buy. And I had autonomy to design things that I liked there. And that's really how it started for me. Was I would design myself a ring or a necklace, and then my friends would start asking me how they could buy it. But I felt like I had to take the leap to do something on my own and to do it in the way that I wanted to do it, because I just didn't see anyone else doing it that way.
Okay. And so obviously we all kind of know you today as the Instagram jewelry queen, but when you were taking that step of starting your own business, the diamond industry can be so opaque and kind of no one really understands how it works if you're outside of it. So what was your kind of initial strategy to sharing your work on social media and kind of making it so approachable?
So I think the most important thing to know is that I had zero strategy to begin with. I was really just doing what felt natural to me. And actually, I had started taking pictures when I was still working for the wholesale company, and posting them to my own Instagram and coming up with witty captions. And that was really just when Instagram was starting to take off. And certainly most people were not using it for business yet. But I felt like it was a fun way to express myself. One of my favorite parts of my job is styling the pictures. Like that is just my passion. I have so much fun with it. Of course, the content doesn't hurt either. Um, but I really just wanted people to see what I was doing, to know how much fun it was. And I probably did step on a lot of toes along the way because this industry is sort of getting shaken from the roots, and the old schoolers are having to adapt to what this new generation of jewelry design means, and how we sell through Instagram. But it was really important to me from the get go to make sure that my friends who were my customers understood what they were buying, because I felt like when I was learning diamonds, the only way I really learned it was to hear from colleagues talking to me like I was a normal person, not reading textbooks, not through the GIA, which I did, but really like seeing it in person, seeing two things side by side, starting to understand the terms in the most basic essential form. And I wanted to be able to do that for my friends and clients.
Yeah, and I'm remembering now that probably whenever I started following you several years ago, um, really one of the key things that I saw you do that I didn't see other people do was to compare some stones and just to show this one is worth more because of this grading, or this is actually weighs more than this one, but the cut is different. So there was like, I guess you approached it a little bit educationally,
Yeah,
especially in the beginning.
I think pretty pictures are great, and I'm all about the pretty picture, but I think when you are when I'm trying to build a business so remotely, when I'm trying to earn people's trust, I think A, they need to see my face and understand like who this girl is and what she knows. And B, I think they need to understand what I'm talking about and know that I know what I'm talking about. And that trust factor is huge, and that's been instrumental in building an online business.
And today you sell different lines on your website. So it's not just your own designs or your custom work. What was that like, kind of branching into that role of also being a buyer and a retailer?
So that was something I sort of knew I wanted to do from the beginning, because when I left my first job, there was another company that I loved, and I became very friendly with the owner, and I helped him with a trade show, and I fell in love with what he was doing, but I didn't want to work for him. But I knew that I could sell his jewelry. So he was the first brand I brought on, and we sort of white labeled it from the beginning because I didn't have any other brands and I wasn't exactly sure what direction I was going to take. But as soon as I started networking and finding other brands and telling them what I was trying to do, they were excited to be a part of it. I was excited to have someone's story to tell, and to kind of give ownership of those pieces back to the person who is designing them. And so it's been fun for me because I can only design so much, especially now at this stage in the business where I'm managing a business as well. So little of my time is actually dedicated to designing. Um, but it's fun because the things that I don't do, the things that I wouldn't think to do, these are things I'm finding and I'm able to, talk about and wear and be excited about because someone else is doing it, and they want to work with us. And that's so much fun.
And speaking of your designs have grown so much over the years, like your slider bangles, and there are just so many different kind of like signature pieces. So when you do get time, like what is the design process like for you?
So for me at this stage in the game, especially because of, Instagram kind of being this Pinterest board of inspiration for everybody to become a jewelry designer, there are a lot of people, entering this space. And I think in order to do it well and to succeed, you need to be different. There needs to be something about your pieces that's really special. And whether it's your story or it's the piece themselves, I'm trying to innovate in this space. So everything I'm doing kind of going forward is something that I haven't seen, that I want to wear myself, or that really does innovate in this space. So the slider bangle is an example of that. That's to me like the modern version of a charm bracelet. And there's
Mhm.
just infinite possibilities to kind of grow that into a real business, which we have over the last 2 years. The electric hoops that we just launched. Titanium is this metal that I never had explored. It allows me to do color. It allows me to hit a price point. So these are all the things that I'm factoring in when I'm designing, is how can I design something that my customer is going to love, that my customer can afford, and that can grow with them over time.
Right. Okay. And so today, now that Stephanie Gottlieb has grown so much, how much of your business is that custom design, working with couples on engagement rings, versus the other brands that you sell or your in-house line?
Well, the business definitely has shifted. We were definitely bridal focused for the first, I would say, 5 years of the business. And that's really because that's what I was doing on the day to day. I was taking bridal appointments all day, every day, showing stones, meeting with friends or strangers through Instagram. And when I started building my team out and hired, right now I have 2 amazing bridal consultants who basically run the business without me. They're so good. Once I was able to trust that they had that under control and take a step back, that was when I could start focusing on growing the other side of the business, which is the fashion and the website and what you see mostly on Instagram. I think for me, the bridal space is so tight and it's so niche, and there is a lot of competition, and big retailers like Blue Nile or James Allen, like it's hard to compete with that type of business model when you're small, and when so much of our bridal business is focused on design. The reason people come to us is because they want the Stephanie Gottlieb design, and that's amazing, and that's something that I will keep focusing on, bringing new designs, because that's why people are coming. But the fashion space, there's so much more room to grow. There's so much more space to kind of take up in that part of the industry, and that's really where there's kind of leeway to have fun with the marketing and grow out that team too.
It's really interesting as you've grown and had to kind of learn how to delegate and work with a team. You've always held on to the reins of your social media. And I know, because I've asked you this before, that you still do all of it. So now that you have been doing it for a long time, what is the kind of strategy today?
So up until 9 months ago, there was no strategy. It was take pictures every single day, post whatever I haven't posted already, and talk about that picture. And that worked for 5 years.
So I think the styling element is just really natural for you then. Just, with your different accessories and with the cute background and the nails, I guess that part is just like something that's natural to you and that you enjoy doing.
It is. I mean, everything you guys are seeing is very organic to me. The rainbow books behind me, like, this is not for show. This is me. It's me at the core. I love fashion. I love fashion photography. I love styling. I love rainbow. And that's all you see all of that in my pictures.
Mm-hmm.
There's now a little bit of strategy behind it because the team has grown, and they try to rein me in and say, okay, we need to sell these things, so can you post about them? And so it has shifted a little bit, but it's still super organic. I still capture all of the content. I still plan all of the photo shoots, because it's me. Stephanie Gottlieb is me. I am the brand. I've become somewhat of a personality because of that. And I think that's the really important piece to keep this growing.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of tips and tricks then, when it comes to social media, can you share? Whether that's like times that you post or kind of are you creating like a lot of content at one time and then kind of scheduling it out? Or like, are there any even best practices that you've picked up along the way for showing jewelry?
Definitely. And that has shifted. And I've learned a lot from my team, from just kind of researching, from watching what other people are doing on social media. Um, I think, I think, first of all, sort of like setting yourself apart from what other people are doing, whether it's your direct competition or otherwise. You want to establish why people should come to you, why they should sign on to your account, why they should become a newsletter subscriber to your product, and differentiate yourself in some way. I think that Instagram is a really strong tool, and I think it's another question about other social platforms. Instagram has become my platform, and it's the one I feel confident in, and it's the one where I have the strongest following. So that's where my focus is. Um, it doesn't mean it's the only platform people should pursue or the right one for certain businesses. But for me, because jewelry is so visual, it's just been such an amazing tool. Um, the way that I do it is in a normal non-COVID world, when I'm in the office, I try and capture as much content as I can. So every time something new comes across my desk, picture and video. Um, Honestly, I used to have I would keep like a mini closet here of clothing so I could be rotating our wardrobe, capture as much as I possibly could. And it's not that easy when you're like actually running a business and taking all the pictures to get it all done. But I definitely try and prioritize the pictures because that's why people come here. That's why people are shopping with us. Um, and then I'll do like once every, it was 3 months. I'm trying to shorten that. It depends how lazy I am or how ambitious I am. But once every 3 months, I would do like a 2-day marathon of photo shoots. So just take a ton of content with great outfits, all of the accessories planned out. I just did that in Miami, so that we have kind of more planned out and strategic banner photos for the website and for email content. But the social stuff, I try to keep it real and every day because I think that's what people like to see.
Mhm.
And I will say that one of the greatest tools of Instagram is stories. People are so tuned into stories. I feel like they're watching them constantly. And we see direct sales every day from stories. So that is like, if you can get yourself comfortable being on camera, that is key. Or someone in the business. It doesn't have to be the owner necessarily, but someone who can represent the company.
So even like for all of your stories and some of your posts, obviously maybe not the multi-day shoots, but are you literally just using your iPhone to this day?
That's it.
Okay. So I think that's very
Unless-
empowering for people to hear. I mean, it's not easy to stand out, but you know, we all do have the tools available to us.
100%. I think it's figuring out what works for you. What it's the same way like a model needs to get comfortable in front of the camera and learn her angles. With a hand, it's understanding how to position your hand, always having your nails done nicely. And this can apply to any business. It's just figuring out like what are your shots, what works for your business, and then kind of building up from, then you get the ring light and then you figure out the filters and all of these things you can figure out just by watching what other people are doing. There's no like secret sauce. There's no magic to it. It's just kind of what works for you.
And are there any other social platforms that are kind of intriguing you or that you feel like is the kind of number two that you try to put some time and energy into?
So, to be honest, for me, not really. We have recently started running paid ads through Facebook, which I do think is a powerful tool. Whenever I have time, I will learn what we're actually doing, but someone on my team is for that right now. I think TikTok is a fun platform. It's not great for every business, but I do think it can be fun. But again, it's sort of like if you're not starting now and you have a following in one place, I kind of found that like it was silly to start over and try and bring my audience elsewhere when I already have a captive audience on Instagram. So I focused my energies there, but I watch TikTok because there's such good inspiration on TikTok. So just kind of knowing what else is out there, what your competition is doing, what other people in similar spaces are doing, because it helps you be creative, if nothing else.
Yeah. But also lean into what's working as well.
Yep.
And then also just, are there any online selling best practices you can share that you've kind of honed over the years?
So I think newsletters are an amazing tool. Once you have a newsletter base, that's a pretty committed group of people because they have opted in, and they may not open it every time and it may not perform for that person every time, but they've signed on for that. So that's a really captive audience, and we see our biggest conversions from newsletters.
Oh, wow.
So learning also how often you can send them without a lot of people unsubscribing, like those are things that you should pay attention to. Looking at the metrics, what type of newsletter performed, what time of day does it perform, are there certain audiences it performs for? Diving a little bit into those metrics is pretty key. And we started using, I think it's Klaviyo, some people say Clavio. It's a really good email tool for businesses because it provides the analytics.
Okay. How often are you sending out your newsletter? I feel like that's just such a, it's kind of a hard one to crack.
It is. And I'm one of those people who, if I see a newsletter come in too often, I hit unsubscribe. I'm not the person who just like keeps deleting them. I will unsubscribe. So I don't want my subscribers to do that. I want them to be excited when they get the newsletters. So we've definitely ramped it up. I would say we send one a week. Sometimes it's more if there's something notable to talk about, if there's a sale or a launch. But we try to keep it either, event based. So there's something going on the website. There's some sort of product launching today, or editorial in some way that's interesting. So my team talking about their favorite pieces on the website, or how to style the slider bangle, or things like that I think my viewers are interested in learning more from.
And do you offer some type of incentive to sign up for the newsletter, like a discount when people sign up?
Yeah,
Okay.
newsletter subscribers get a discount on their first purchase. So that's always a good way to get people to sign on, and then you hope they stay.
Yeah, I feel like I just see practically any new brand that I come to using that. So and it does encourage me to sign up for the newsletter. So I think that's very effective.
100%.
So we touched a little bit on you being your brand, being the face of your brand. I'm curious, how do you balance your kind of sharing personal elements and then keeping privacy? Just because I feel like people do feel like they know you and they feel happy and invested in like the birth of your children, for example. So I'm curious if you have a certain kind of philosophy to deciding what to share versus just what to keep private.
I think, on the one hand, like I have a responsibility to my team and my business. So I can't overshare because that's just not in their best interest. Like this is a business at the end of the day. The reason I share my life is because I do think that people like to be a part of the story and the journey and are happy for my successes. And that's what builds the community. That's why people are so invested in the brand, is that they feel like they start to know me. And like we said, I'm the one answering your DMs. Like I'm the one reading every single message that comes in. And I always try to acknowledge at the very least with like a double tap heart. It's hard to get back to everybody, but I
Yeah.
want you to know that I'm really there. I'm invested in hearing from you and the feedback, and it's a two-way street. So, I've gained a lot of friends from my Instagram relationships. I've gained a lot of clients that way. I think I sort of have some responsibility to share a little bit because people want to see it and be involved. But I know my boundaries. Like example, my husband doesn't really like to be on there, and that's okay. I don't really put him on there too often unless it's his birthday, and then I beg him to let me post him. But my kids are little, so right now they're not going to say, "Mommy, I don't want to be on camera," and when they do, they won't. But for now, I think it gives you a little bit of insight into who I am as a person, who I am as a mother, a sister, a business owner, and I think that's important.
So then, just acknowledging that you do have a team. I thought it was interesting how you said that you can't overshare because you have a team of people like all working for this company.
I could.
You could, right?
I wouldn't be very
How does that translate politically for you? Do you have to just keep certain areas like a no-go so that you don't alienate a potential customer?
like actually talking politics.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like more than ever, I saw people talking about who they were voting for, like brands talking about who they were voting for this year. Like it just became so much more normal to kind of like show your political affiliation.
I think it's almost less political and more like from a social responsibility standpoint, standing up for what we believe is right, and letting people know that that's where our brand ethos is, that we, believe in women's rights and that we support, love is love, and that we're socially conscious. We are very aware of what's going on in the world. We want to dial in to make sure that we are not only doing the right thing, but supporting the people we believe in, supporting what we believe is right. And I think it's important for brands to know that they're buying from a company that they can stand behind and that the company will stand behind their product, but also, doing the right thing.
Yeah, because today it seems like consumers are demanding that a little bit more.
Yeah, there's definitely a responsibility to share values with the companies that you're buying into.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my last question before we turn it over to audience questions is, I know that you love a good collaboration, and you always have some new exciting project or new design underway. So what is next for Stephanie Gottlieb right now?
Well, our shoes that I started teasing this week, that's why I was in Miami, with Mystique, that launches next week. And the collaborations are just really fun for me. They let me get really creative. I get to try new things. Of course, I love and live in the products that we work on. So it's a bonus that I'm getting to explore all these avenues and then get to wear the product too. We have 2 apparel collabs coming up in the next 3 months. So I'm
Oh,
also
wow.
excited about those, but can't tell you more yet.
Okay. And then of course, the new hoops are titanium.
Yes.
So cool.
Titanium. And this is just, they're lightweight, they're
Yeah.
fun. It's perfect going into summer to have that pop of color. And price point was really key here. Like, how could we find a really cool statement piece that everybody can buy into?
Okay, awesome. Very exciting. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I'll turn it over to Michelle now for some questions.
Thank you so much. That was a really great discussion, Ashley and Stephanie. And thanks again to our sponsor, RDI Diamonds. As a reminder, you can still type questions in the Zoom Q&A box, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. We've had a few come in here during the session, and we had quite a few submitted beforehand. So I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. I'm going to give people a couple more minutes to think of some questions, and I'm just going to say a quick word about RDI Diamonds. RDI Diamonds, the selection you want, the quality you need. Thousands of diamonds? That's just the beginning. RDI offers a wide range of services in sport to help you succeed. From flexible memo options, a partnership with De Beers Group Industry Services, to generous stock options and cost efficient shipping. RDI's goal is to provide the highest care quality of both care and diamonds to your store. Visit rdidiamonds.com today to learn more. That is rdidiamonds.com, and you can visit that today. Thank you. Now let's get started with our listener questions. We've had a lot of questions come in about Instagram, and Stephanie, I think you went into pretty good detail on your approach to Instagram, which kind of started with no approach and now is getting kind of fine tuned. But people wanted to know specifically, we had two questions about how do you manage to respond to all Instagram direct messages? A couple of people asked about this.
Lack of sleep. That barely works. This is very much a 24/7 job for me. When I'm not sleeping, I live and breathe this business. My family would tell you that. My sister works with me, which makes it easier because at least we can talk about it at the family dinner table. But I'm all in and very committed to this business. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to do business, to live and breathe for it, but you have to be on a lot of the time. And maybe one day I would hire someone to help me with the messages, because a lot of them are just questions about how do I get that necklace, or how long does it take? Is it in stock? There are a lot of customer service questions that I end up fielding, or I refer them to, the right person on our team to answer those questions. But the more you can have someone who knows the whole business top to bottom, the more effective that communication can be. It's sort of like the first line of defense, and whether you like it or not, people think that is the best way to reach you. So they're going to ask you about their order status. They're going to ask how long something takes. They're going to ask you where your jeans are from. They're going to ask a little bit of everything. So I happen to be the one person who could answer 90% of those questions. So I do.
Right. And I mean, as Ashley mentioned a couple of times, it's your name on there, it's your brand. So you really like being hands-on and knowing what your customers are asking about and what they want to know.
I do, but I'm not suggesting that everybody has to run their business that way. If I had a really good customer service person, they could definitely handle that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Someone else wanted to know, and this kind of goes back to what you just answered. How do you juggle being a mom, an entrepreneur, a social media, quote, boss lady, including being the face and voice of your brand? Is the answer to this question also no sleep?
Kind of. I've sort of blended a lot of it together. I work with my sister and I get to hang out with my sister. My husband takes my photos while we're on vacation. So I try to do as much as I can in a blended way. I think the one silver lining of COVID has been that I'm working from home majority of the time. So I get to pop in and see my kids more than I normally would. But, there's kind of an understanding that I'm a working mom. In a normal world, I'm in the office from 10 to 6. And when I'm with my kids, I do that. So I kind of just designate what I'm doing when I'm doing it. And it's the only way you can do it.
Okay. Someone else wants to know, Stephanie, how did you come up with the concept for the slider bangle?
So everything I do is concept in my brain. I do not have any bench work experience. I cannot make you a piece of jewelry. And that's something I explain to people a lot, because jeweler, I call my jeweler a jeweler, and he's actually the one crafting the pieces. So a lot of it is collaborative between me and the jeweler, the person making the piece. So in my head is this concept of something crazy, and then it's a back and forth dialogue with my jeweler to say, you're nuts, this is never happening, or okay, here's some ideas on how we can execute. The slider bangle is, many people know that I wear a lot of the Cartier Love bracelet, and I love them, and I'm a Cartier fan, but I sell jewelry and I don't sell Cartier. So I really wanted a bracelet that I felt was comparable to the love bracelet that I would wear every single day, that would be meaningful, that would represent important moments in my life, because that's what these were. I got one for my 21st birthday. My husband proposed with one. They've really been these kind of benchmarks of important moments. And I wanted the slider to be that. I wanted a bracelet that would represent important moments that people could build over a lifetime, that maybe they'll hand down to their children. So the inspiration came from that, came from wanting to have like a lifelong wearable piece that can kind of grow with you.
And that people look at and say, that's Stephanie Gottlieb, in the same way you look at the love bracelet and say, Cartier.
Absolutely. Having that iconic symbol of the brand is key.
Thank you. There's been some discussion here. I thought you brought up an interesting point about people now shopping with their values. Someone wants to know, touching on the point of talking about your social responsibility in your messaging, are people asking about responsibility or sustainability in jewelry, or is it mostly about the sparkle? And how do you address and message this?
So I think the question comes to light mostly as it relates to lab grown versus natural diamonds. And I've aligned myself pretty strongly with natural diamonds. I work with the Natural Diamond Council. I think that most people in the industry have picked a side, and that's the side I've picked. And it's not, I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about how ethical lab grown diamonds are. Um, to answer the real question, most people care about the sparkle when they're buying jewelry. Many people, especially this younger generation of buyers, do care about the ethics of the diamonds they're buying, and perhaps lab grown is the way they go because of that. I would say to do your research and read, learn more, ask your jeweler a lot of questions, because there are pros and cons for lab grown. And this is like probably another hour-long webinar we could have, but I've picked the ethics of nature and something that comes from nature over something that is expedited and simulated in a lab. So I'm not sure if that answers the question exactly, but that's where I see the question come up the most.
Is when people ask about lab grown versus natural diamonds. Stephanie, do you ever get any questions about where does this gold come from? Does that ever come up?
I don't. And I think it's probably because like we have not called ourselves, a sustainable, we don't use those words to describe our jewelry, and we're not using recyclable gold or recycled gold. We're not using, repurposed stones. That's just not the core of what we do. There are brands that do that. And, for the people who are really invested in making sure their purchase is sustainable, they would buy from that kind of company. It's just not what we do.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Someone wants to know, this is kind of back to Instagram. What is your philosophy on putting prices on captions?
It's tricky because I think putting prices on captions is like very much a no-no in this particular industry, because it's not like a pair of shoes where if you buy it from this store or that store, it's the same price. And it's also a one-of-a-kind piece usually. If it's something that's on my website, always I tag with prices. But if it's a one-of-a-kind diamond that then someone tomorrow is going to ask for the same thing and I can't replicate it at the same price, that's where it gets tricky. So I normally don't put prices on a single stone, even like a sapphire or other gemstone, because there's so much room for pricing to change, just based on the specifics of that particular ring. And most of what I post, those are clients' rings. So I can't sell you a ring and then put it online and say, hey guys, he spent this. That would be a pretty big no-no. So I don't tag prices for that reason, unless it is something we are selling and have available in stock.
Okay. Someone else wants to know, what percentage of sales come from people you know versus people you've never met, i.e. people you become acquainted with through social media?
99% are people I don't know. And that's, shifted, of course, over the last 7 years. It used to be 100% friends, family, and word of mouth. So I knew everybody through some connection. But as soon as my business grew to accommodate an Instagram clientele, I know very few of the clients now.
And how do you handle, someone else wants to know, how do you handle safe returns of merchandise?
That's kind of industry protocol. I mean, we work near 47th Street. We have messengers who are insured and also under the radar and know what they're doing. You certainly won't see them, wearing necklaces to return them. They're, hidden in some very discreet bag that you would never know has diamonds. But that's what we do on 47th Street. Pretty much everybody has something. Um, that's how this industry works. So everything we do is done smartly. We have strangers come here for appointments, but we have double doors and cameras everywhere and buttons that we can press in an instant, and the police will be here. So this is something that the diamond industry has done for decades.
Okay. We also had quite a few questions from different listeners, and they all kind of fall on their heading of what advice would you give to somebody, a young, inspiring jeweler who wants to start out in this industry? Like, where do they think they should start, and what tips do you have for them?
I guess it depends on how much you know and what your experience is. The way that I started was get your foot in the door somewhere. So
Well, yeah, you mentioned you started with an internship.
I did. So I started at the wholesale level, but retail would kind of give you the same experience, just sort of on the other end of things. I think working in retail is probably an easier foot in the door because it's just an easier thing to hire for. Wholesale, you almost need to know somebody to find a lot of these wholesale companies because so many of them are sort of old school and just hire family or friends of family. But work experience cannot be paralleled with schooling. And I think that's like across the board, any industry, like being in it every day and learning from people who do this is far more important to me than having a GG. And so I would say just take any job you can in this industry and learn everything you can ground up. Get your hands in as many pieces of the business as you can. When I was at the Wholesale Diamond Company, I did sales, production, marketing, trade shows, trunk shows, a little bit of everything. And that's really how I was able to go out and do this on my own because I had learned kind of all of those different avenues, how to price jewelry, how to do jewelry photography, and then connections, and when you get your foot in the door wherever you are, you start to meet people. You start to network with people in the industry. You meet jewelers. You meet all the people who will help build the fundamentals for doing something on your own.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We've also had a couple questions come in, and this is a hot topic in the industry related to designers being copied. And, this is especially hot topic today because everybody's designs are out in front of everybody on Instagram. So we had a couple different questions kind of related to how do you innovate in a crowded space, especially when everything can easily be copied? And kind of what do you do if you are getting copied by another company?
This is the hardest topic because it's expensive to protect yourself and it's a shame. And unfortunately, here I am. I think I started selling the slider in 2017 for the first time and didn't put the pieces into place to protect myself because when you make something, you never know how big a hit it's going to be. Like I could have sold 2 slider bangles. I didn't know that it would really turn into something. You hope that it will, but you don't know. So you don't know that it's worthwhile to get a lawyer and apply for patents or trademarks or copyrights, depending on what you're doing. But that's really the only way you can protect yourself. And even then, sending the letter just to tell someone to stop copying you costs money. So it's expensive. It's an expensive game. I think what I've learned is that you sort of have to just swallow it and move on. And if you know that you are the first and the best at it, you just keep pushing forward with that. But I do think it's worthwhile for anyone who's doing something very unique to explore IP, to try and protect yourself up front, because once it's out there, it's free game. I mean, any and everyone will copy you, and it's awful, but it happens.
Very true. But it doesn't sound, Stephanie, like you believe in, like some people believe in, for example, like public shaming, like tagging people or calling them out on Instagram, or, starting a back and forth, trying to shame them into quit making whatever it is that's being copied from your line. It doesn't sound like that's something that you are interested in spending time on.
You end up shooting yourself in the foot when you do that. You end up making yourself look pretty bad. It's so hard because I bite my tongue every day when I see this one account posting the fake slider bangle and pretending it's theirs. And the worst part of it all is that when people try to shame them on my behalf, not because I've asked them, but because they are upset for me, they try and flip it and say they invented it. People are crazy. You're never going to win doing that. You're never going to win trying to cancel someone or attack them. It's not worth it. Just kind of know in your heart that you did it first, you're doing it better, and keep innovating.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for everyone with any kind of social media argument. You're never going to win. We also have a couple people. We're kind of running a little short on time, so we'll try to get to a few more here. We definitely have a lot of questions about this. People want to know, particularly retail brick and mortar stores, they're looking, Stephanie, how can they get more of a following on Instagram? What do you recommend? They're looking to make their stores more relevant on Instagram, and they're looking to kind of like amp up their presence on there as well and sell on there too.
That makes sense. So I think the first thing is having a good landing page to send them to. So if you're brick and mortar and you don't have a website that you think best represents your business, you should probably do that first, because once people find you, they're going to start searching for more, and you need a good place to send them to. So even if it's just the prettiest landing page that has your contact information, make it the best landing page you've ever seen, and the one that really represents your business. In terms of gaining following, I think that finding other micro influencers who would be excited to work with you is a really good way to start. So I think micro is defined as under 10K, but I could be totally wrong. I think there are a lot of people who are trying to do the same thing. So finding other brands that align with you, finding influencers or bloggers who want to post about your product, even if it's in exchange for wearing the pieces for their own content, or maybe there's a piece that you can gift them if you don't have the budget to, pay for content. But definitely sort of spreading this spider web and creating a network of your own. That's really the best way to grow.
Perhaps for brick and mortar business, that could be partnering with other local small businesses that are also looking to up their Instagram presence and up their online reach. And it's what you're doing, correct? It's helping your brand with your collaboration, for example, with the shoe company you just mentioned.
Totally. It could even be your clients. Maybe there's an incentive for them posting about what they purchased from you, and now their friends get to know, because we're all influencers in some way, right? If you wear a cool sweatshirt and your friends see it, they want to go to the Gap and buy the sweatshirt too. That happened to me this morning. So if you can influence your own network to go and shop with this store, they now have 10 new potential customers. It's 10 more than they had yesterday. So I think there's definitely ways to encourage people to promote your business, whether it's a discount or a referral code, but kind of use your own network.
Yeah, somebody commented in this is not a question, but someone commented, your style is amazing in general. Appreciate that you put in a Gap sweater into your wardrobe choices. So somebody enjoyed that.
Mhm.
Have you, one of our listeners wants to know, Stephanie, have you thought about wholesaling your private label items to retailers and becoming a brand in stores? And we've seen this a lot that people start online, they blow up, they become very, I mean, it's almost how people do it now. They don't start with a store, they start online and then go into store, open stores. Is that something you're thinking about?
I've thought about it a lot. It's a whole other animal to go into wholesale, but we are going into one online retailer, which is very exciting with exclusive product, and it will probably drop by the end of summer. So more info to come.
Oh, okay. So that's all you can say about it for now.
All I got for you.
Okay. Um, we had a couple questions too that kind of people want to know about what pieces are trending and are there different items or price points uh, selling kind of best? Like what are you seeing right now in terms of what people are buying? I mean, we've heard that diamond jewelry did very well last year. I don't know if you experienced that as well, but I'm curious what people are buying in these unusual times.
So I think that people definitely invested in the classics. I've never in my 7 years sold so many pave huggies and tennis bracelets. I think people see value in the classics, and that is a smart way to buy, especially if you're making your first important jewelry purchases. We did a ton of tennis necklaces, and I think that's probably because I wear them every day and people see them and start to love the look and want to buy into that too. So definitely a push for the classics. Hoops have been big. They always are, but I think kind of like the heavier gold statement hoops. And then the paperclip chain in all variations, all thicknesses, all lengths. That is everywhere I turn. And it's a good one because it's something you can use with the charms you already own that you've had for, forever. Maybe your grandma gave you kind of an antiquated charm that you would never wear, but all of a sudden you put it on a cool chain and it's this brand new piece. Or you can do something a little chunkier and more statement, but especially going into summer with like a white t-shirt and jeans, I think like the gold chains are really cool.
And are you seeing, is it all yellow gold, white gold, rose gold? What's trending?
Yellow is always number one. I personally wear a lot of rose, so we tend to sell a lot of rose, but yellow is definitely having a strong moment right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're hearing. And we're hearing the same thing. Actually, we just did a story today about the strength of the classics this past holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I think those are all the questions we have we're going to be able to get to today. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. And Ashley, thank you so much for hosting. Um, my next question will return next Tuesday. That's April 6th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Our guest will be Oscar Sachs, who is the CEO of Salesfloor. Oscar is going to be in conversations with Associate Editor Lenore Fido, and he's going to be talking about how virtual selling can be used to establish a strong customer base. If anyone wants to sign up for that session, you can go to nationaljeweler.com. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and take care.